Okay, here we are. Great to be with you all again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's great to see so many people dropping in from all around the world. I'm just going to increase my screen here and so I'm speaking a little softly. I hear myself. So just let me know if you can hear and see me okay. Okay, I'm just always find it a little tricky on this program to increase the screen. Here we go. That's better. Great. You can all hear and see me. Well, it's different times of the day and evening for everyone attending. It's a fresh new morning here on the east coast of Australia. And we have an opportunity to be together in guided meditation, as well as some dharma discussion from, based on your questions after the meditation, and also potentially based on the meditation itself. Usually something always slightly different emerges, all within the theme of dharma. The dharma is one word for, it's translated in so many ways and can mean in so many different words, but it means truth or reality or the way it is, things as they are. And you find this word or this pointer in all spiritual traditions. The Tao also means the way of truth or nature. I'm not sure what the Indian Sanskrit Advaita term is at this point, but of course it's always translated as truth or ultimate reality, Brahman, Parabrahman. Across a Christian, various Christian ways of practice, we also have ultimate truth, ultimate reality, God consciousness, Christ consciousness. All sages, all teachers, realized teachers of different traditions point to this as realizable, as the reality of our very being. And that's one of the pros, one of the wonderful aspects of this melting pot of our world today, is we can start to see that ultimately within the traditions of different spiritual practices in those sages who have realized, not just adhering to doctrine, because doctrine is where we find differences. Words, ideas, concepts are where we can find differences, apparently, because it's based on different sounds, different cultural ways of being and understanding. But realized ones understand it's the truth, it's the same, no matter what word you hang on it. The same reality underpinning all life, all expressions. There is that. and it's realizable and has profound consequences for its realization, as again, as the sages point to. So I know you're all fans of Jayasara's Wisdom of the Masters channel, and you can understand how this truth is expressed in different ways through the different voices on that channel, on this channel. And we, both of us, and obviously you all as well, find it very enriching, even if we don't understand at first the words of a different culture or language in pointing to this reality. By just being open-minded and listening, the heart recognizes. Not only recognizes the truth and resonates with that truth, but can also start to understand how attachment, fixation on words ultimately is what divides, seems to divide things. And from such division and ideas of separation, of course, we see different forms of conflict emerging in the world. So our practice is to recognize and resonate with this one truth, the very nature of our being. And recognizing ourselves too, that any sense of division or separateness emerges from conceptual constructs, ideas, thoughts, conditioned ideas and thoughts about who we think we are. So from the Buddha's perspective, when he started to teach after his realization, he pointed to this experience of separation as dukkha, as suffering, the sense of isolation and sense of desiring something else, something other, because we don't see the truth of our own being. This is an experience of dukkha, of unsatisfactoriness, or to the other extreme, desolation. So he actually said this can be a sign to wake us up in that moment, in that very moment, if we find that the heart, the mind is suffering in some form. Right there we can wake up, we can release whatever it is the thinking mind has become fixated on. An idea of who I think I am, what I might be lacking, what I need to get in another time, in another place, what I need to do to become better or more perfect. All of that is movement away from the reality of who you are, of dharma, of truth, here and now. Always accessible, always present. We just have to be reminded that it's there. To wake up. So this is all the teachings are about. Pointers to the truth of your being. To help awaken the mind, which is temporarily, or the heart, awaken the heart, which has been temporarily clouded or confused. So let's begin a guided meditation, and we'll turn off the chat box for this period just to help everyone focus and let go into the meditation. And when we're finished, after about 25 minutes or so, we'll open that up for your questions. Okay, and I might have to leave a little earlier today, perhaps around by, well, an hour and a half I can give it, because we need to attend another service. Okay, so let's relax into the meditation. Wherever you find yourself right now, don't try to change anything, except maybe a subtle adjustment of your posture to come into a more comfortable position, aligning the spine so it's upright, unless, of course, you're unwell and need to lie down or recline somewhat, which is fine. But otherwise, if you're able, an upright spine can be very helpful. Not tense, supported from the base of the spine in a relaxed way. Not hunched over, let your shoulders be open and relaxed. And just bring awareness to your body as it is. Not in a forced way, just allow it to come into awareness. And feel the various sensations that are happening for this body right now. The sensations of sitting, feeling the shape of your body posture. Feeling the breath naturally move in and out of the body. You might become aware of some tension or tightness in the body somewhere. And if that's the case, don't try to push it out, but allow your awareness to settle into it right there. And breathe with the feeling of tightness or tension. Allowing the body to find its own way of relaxing out of that or softening into it. And we'll spend just a couple of minutes letting our attention, our awareness settle around the experience of body. And letting the body become relaxed, the breathing become relaxed. Even as various thoughts might distract you, we practice recognizing if attention's moved into thought, and simply opening the mind again to feel the body as your primary point of awareness, your primary anchor in the present. And it might take a little while for the breath to find its natural rhythm and the body to relax with that. Don't try to focus down hard on the breath, just let the mind be open and aware of this natural rhythm. The body breathes as its way of being. From the moment of birth, It does this, it doesn't need our intention to make it happen. And allow it to move as it needs to. Only don't hold it, don't interfere with it. Let it be. So the body in itself has, there's an intelligence that seeks to find balance, equilibrium. So we can learn how to trust this embodied experience. We can become aware of stress or tension that's held in the body. And as soon as we're aware of that, if we don't interfere, don't persist in resisting or holding, then that unconscious holding will be released. And sometimes this happens in a gradual way, as if we're working with layers of conditioned ways of holding and tensing the body. When we recognize that, it becomes fully conscious and can be released just naturally in the light of awareness. Now there'll be various sounds in your field of awareness. Various thoughts and images arising in the mind. Even as we experience different sensations of the body and the breath sensation. So we don't try to block any of it. We just become familiar with this field of awareness that experiences sense impressions, whatever they are. Not trying to hold anything or push anything away or manipulate anything. We can just observe that sense impressions, it's a natural function of this embodied being, but those impressions are coming and going. They're a fluctuating stream of impressions, sound, sensation, thought, memory. So we learn to rest in the awareness itself. as the still point within this field of fluctuating experience coming and going. When we experience movement of the mind, we can experience, say, the attention flickering with the different impressions, movement of attention on sound, on thought, sensation. So we don't need to try to make that point of a changing point of attention still, but we recognize the suffuse field of awareness as already deeply still. Not at one point, but precisely because it is pervasive and encompasses all points. So this field of awareness is natural. The ground of being has a natural knowing. When we recognize that, we experience rest or know rest directly, even as sense impressions may still move through. So the body form is one field of sense impression. Through the body form, we know sensation. Through the hearing field sense, we know different sounds, different tones. And the mind sense is just that which is sensitive to thought, ideas, concepts, mental constructs, often stimulated by the other sensory input sensations, sounds, tastes, smells, sights. But all of this comes and goes, plays in the all-pervasive field of awareness itself. The natural knowing nature. It's not the knowing of concepts, it's the knowing of the heart. It's not at all a doing. It's not conditioned. It's not created or constructed. It just is. So our practice, for want of a better word, is just learning to recognize this and hang out there again and again, becoming familiar with this resting itself, resting in awareness, which simply means allowing the monkey mind to rest when it recognizes true nature and to experience that innate peace, that innate fullness. But to also recognize over time how we lose touch with that from time to time. we forget temporarily that it's always there to be rested in, connected with. We can't actually unconnect from it. However, much like a cloud drifts across the sky and can temporarily block the sun from a particular viewpoint on the earth, that's what forgetting feels like. It gets a little cloudy, or we experience confusion for a time. It doesn't mean the sun's not there or the sky's not there at all. It's a temporary clouding. And the more we can recognize that, the more confidence, understanding we gain. And the more ability then to not cling to the cloud or try to push the cloud away or fight with the cloud or curse the cloud, but to recognize it's a temporary movement. And in the non-resistance, we find that natural openness again, instantaneously. Now the thinking mind will capture our attention as we're used to, as the mind is conditioned. But every time we recognize that, we can start to see right through it. You don't have to fight thought or get rid of thought. But what's important is not to believe that's who and what you are, or that you even are the thinker. Thoughts are merely products of the thinking mind. It's a conditioned activity of mind. And this thinking mind mimics what's around it, what it learns, what it sees, hears. It's a learned way of communicating in a particular situation. It has its pros, but it certainly has its cons when we don't understand what it is, its function, and that it's not really who and what we are. It's an intellectual function, a way of communicating, just as I'm using words now. But that's all it is. And when we don't fight it or struggle with it or misunderstand it, it causes no problem. When we don't identify with it as being who and what we are, we no longer feel limited by it or imprisoned by it. Similarly, with the emotional moods of the heart, it's a certain way of communicating, a certain way of experiencing the sensory field. But we don't have to get born into it such that we feel we're this isolated, separate entity based on an emotion or a thought or physical sensations. But neither do we have to get rid of them or deny them. Learning how to rest in your deep, true nature, the ground of being. This is the way or the path to full realization, to full understanding, to ultimate ease, ultimate rest. And this is the place from where we can engage with the world, trusting the responses of the heart, because its expressions truly, when we're in touch with that, is just wisdom and compassion. So let's draw this meditation to a close in your own time. We'll open the chat box, and in your own time, those of you who'd like to ask some questions, I'd be very happy to respond. So thank you for sharing this meditation. Okay, I'm just scrolling back through the chat here and see what questions come in. So Zaru asks, why is it so hard for a spiritual seeker to find people like-minded in real life? Well, it's not necessarily hard, but it's not necessarily easy. I guess one can say it's there's a karmic component to who we meet and when we meet them. Or if we don't meet who we feel are like-minded people. I mean, when I was younger, so often when we're young and growing up, we can feel maybe we're not we haven't yet met the people who we feel truly akin with. And it can take a little bit of a journey for us to find like-minded people. Often as a young person, we do embark on that kind of journey, a spiritual journey of sorts. I myself traveled as a young person, 22, 23, with a friend. We traveled through Asia and Europe and settled for a time in England. And I was internally certainly searching for something that made sense, and had to leave my homeland and my family group and friend group in that search. And then I came to the Buddhist monastery in England and felt very connected with the intent of that community, that Buddhist community. And so for a long time I stayed and practiced in that way. But then sometimes, as it did for me, after many years, I also felt the need to move on. So there's something, I think, intuitive and instinctive in a way that can guide us. One thing that can help is if you really make your intention conscious. I'd like to meet some more like-minded people, spiritually minded people. And for some people on the spiritual journey, they'll make a strong intention or dedication. I wish to meet a teacher who I feel connected with, who can support and help me on this path of growth, of awakening. And this, I've heard stories where this intention and kind of dedication or powerful spiritual longing has borne fruit. But in this day and age, in the internet world, here you are, you're amongst a group of like-minded people all over the world. Prior to the internet, we had to travel the world physically to find those connections. But now just look at the chat box. It's full of people from almost every part of the world who is connecting with you and vibrating on the same level. So, and I see that you recognize that and you're talking about in real life, but try setting this intention. I'd like to come into contact with like-minded spiritual seekers in my everyday world and see how that works. But we have so much coming to us these days, through books, and there's so many different teachers on the internet, different ways of engaging the spiritual path. So Sometimes our seeking happens in different ways, but you will find, that's for sure. So trust that too. And in the meantime, if you're not feeling connected to those around you, just recognize that they too are spiritual beings. Perhaps they're not actively seeking understanding or consciously wishing to wake up, but actually most people are engaged in activity that they believe or that they want to bring them peace and happiness, but to varying degrees of consciousness, I guess. And so they may be pursuing ways that actually bring temporary pleasure but don't bring ultimate happiness. So, but yeah, I get it. There are people of all sorts of different views. But know that they're not separate either. We can indulge ourselves and believe that people with opposite views, that they or we are completely unconnected. But that's all on the level of the thinking constructs and the conditioned mind. So this helps bring you back in touch with the ground of being, the nature of reality that we all share. And this allows the wisdom and compassion to be ever present in the heart. So, question from Kazakhstan. Sergey or Sergey. What meditation practice would you recommend to achieve deep samadhi to the level of jhana? Breath in the nose, stomach, whole body, awareness itself, or other? Well, it depends on your own character, and it depends, one can enter deep samadhi from various practices. The Buddha taught many different practices. In one particular overarching list is 37 Bodhipakkhiya dharmas, 37 different ways of practice, all of which, if one hits the stream of right view, one can enter, well, not even perfect view, but at least mundane right view, one can enter into the deeper states of samadhi. But one of the blocks to this idea of jhana and samadhi is our own ideas that this is some kind of profound state that I have to get, and so this desire for it becomes the actual block, becomes that which stops the mind from resting, because samadhi is just a deep state of calmness, calm and clarity. So what we have to see within ourselves is what prevents that, what stops the mind and the body from settling. It's usually our desire for something else. The mind is conditioned to be very goal-oriented, project an idea of something and then try to strive to get it. And this is not the way. So the way is, to put it in Buddhist terms, sila, samadhi, panya, the three aspects of the Eightfold Path. Settling our life in a sense of harmlessness is the sila. Understanding how to modulate our activities so we're not causing harm in the moment to ourselves or others through greed, hatred. And that can take a while to modulate and to learn how to work with. And the 5 precepts can give us a sense of a skillful boundary to learn how to speak and act in ways that don't harm others. So that's the sila, but this actually allows the mind to become less agitated as well. So it's a basis for allowing the mind to settle, the mind and the body. That there's still this strong conditioning of the thinking mind and attaching to experience as being permanent, as being me and mine, and this kind of inner struggle or doing, or an inability to open up, particularly to the more unpleasant sensations which might naturally arise. So on a basis of sila, we learn what it is that keeps the mind and body agitated and what it is that allows it to settle and open. So this is a learning process. And this is what we call samadhi. When the mind and the body together understand and starts to rest in a natural calmness. So the understanding of all of this is the panya, the wisdom. And these 3 factors are working together. So there's a recording on this channel of Ajahn Chah's. I think it's called Developing Samadhi, which you should listen to. And it talks about these 3 factors working together. There's also the recent recording, a couple of released just last week, of Ajahn Dun, The Path to Liberation, where he talks in very simple terms the development of this sila samadhi panya. So, which is, sila is finding a sense of harmony within ourselves in relationship to the world and activity and other beings. And then samadhi is the natural harmonious settling of the body-mind, and panya is coming into touch with that understanding of how this works. And then those things deepen. You can't force it. They'll deepen quite naturally. But when the mind starts to understand the principles, that's what it leans into. In terms of which practice you use, using the breath to recognize the breath, you need something as an anchor for the monkey mind, which chases sensation. So we can use the breath as an anchor, the body sensations as an anchor. We can use investigation as an anchor, like explore the elements, earth, water, fire, air, how they intermingle and interact to produce these sensations. You can experiment. How is it to feel the breath coming in the nose, or is it easier to let the mind, the thinking mind, relax if I feel the breath coming in at the stomach? Usually with awareness itself, which is your other question, we need to come to recognizing awareness itself through settling the body-mind, through, as we did in this meditation, say on the breath or the body for a time, until we see these sensations coming and going, and that what lays underneath or behind or surrounding it is just this field of awareness. Once we have that finer mindfulness, our discernment can recognize this. For me, when I come into that recognition of awareness itself, for me, that's the point that really helps the mind-body settle into a deepening stillness. For others, they may find it's really just perpetually working with recognizing the sensation of the breath and refining that. And for each of us, something different might work at different times, but usually a cultivation. This is only what the practitioner themselves can know, what works for you. And we find our way through experimentation, sometimes inquiry, like the Ramana Maharshi way of practice, to inquire, to whom does this thought arise? So it's turning awareness back to the source of the thought, which is this empty, open mind, this empty, open awareness. Keep turning it back to recognize. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, the chat's jumped a fair bit. Okay. Hans says, the Buddha said that everything is impermanent, but yet Buddha nature or the source seems to be ever present and all pervading. Could you please shed some light on this? The Buddha said that all conditioned things are impermanent. Very specific. All conditioned things are impermanent, which means that everything that is born, everything that arises, everything that has a beginning has an end. Everything that arises ceases. Everything that is born dies. This body is born. It will die. You look around you in the natural world, everything that comes into being, everything that has a beginning goes through a cycle of peaking in its, springtime, its summertime, and then the autumn, the fading, the withering, and the winter, death. And then renewal, death, resting, renewal, spring. Or the life cycles of everything. Even the sun has a life cycle, the moon, the universe in its expansion and contraction has a life cycle. All conditioned things, from the smallest microscopic microbe to the majesty of the galaxies. Everything that has a beginning has an end. So these is what we call conditioned things, or compounded things, or constructed things. They're conditioned because they come together based on the interaction of other conditions. And because those conditions are always changing, things change. So impermanence also means change, not just beginning and ending, but a constant flux and flow of interactivity because of the nature of conditions and conditionality. And yet the Buddha realized the deathless element, which is the awakening, the enlightenment, the attaining of nirvana. And it was actually which that recognition of the deathless is what set him out on his journey. He recognized, having profoundly awakened to aging, illness, and death as the inevitability of this body, he also then saw a religious practitioner, a wanderer, and he gained an intuition that that the deathless can be found. The deathless is worth pursuing, if you like. So from the very beginning, within the whole culture within which the Buddha emerged, there's this recognition, there is the deathless, which is not bound up with birth and death, which is beyond anicca, dukkha, anatta, which is the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, the insubstantiality of conditioned things. So the deathless reality is that described, the Buddha said, there is the unborn, the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unformed. If it weren't, if there was not this, there would be no escape from the born, the conditioned, the created, the formed. But because there is the unborn, the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unformed, there is an escape discerned from the born, the conditioned, the created, the formed. So throughout the teachings, we have this, the conditioned and the unconditioned. Wisdom is born and grows from understanding both the conditioned reality and the unconditioned, the realization of the unconditioned. Puts into perspective what this conditioned reality is. So they're both there. But the deathless is not a thing, because if it were a thing, things come into existence, they can be defined as with qualities and thingness. But the deathless is beyond such a definition of thingness. This is where it goes beyond the conceptual way of definition. And yet we have many words throughout spiritual traditions trying to point to it. So here you see where words, we have to recognize words in themselves are conditioned constructs, but what they point to, that which can be realized as unconditioned, is a direct knowing, and that realization brings freedom, brings liberation from suffering. So Alex says, Alex says goodbye. It was too late for him to stay, but he'll watch later. Wonderful. Glad you could join the meditation. Gail, can you recommend a specific practice to learn for the time of death? We're grateful for Jayasara's readings on death, dying, and illness. Thank you, Gail and Porter. Well, my recommendation, a specific practice to learn for the time of death. What comes to mind and is instinctive for me is the recognition of awareness, the ever-present awareness itself, because that is the conduit, if you like, or the link to the continuity of the deathless, in essence. So recognizing awareness itself, as I was pointing to in this meditation and in many other guided meditations as well, it's a formless, pervasive, innate sphere of knowing, but it's not the knowing of concepts. Concepts arise and cease, and that's fine. Concepts bubble up. The native awareness is a direct knowing, a non-conceptual knowing, ever present. And it's not something you have to do or create. It is just present. But our practice can be to recognize it. And we can use these guided meditations. I find the meditations, the teachings of Padmasambhava to be very helpful for pointing this out. I know Jayasara also finds the Longchenpa readings very helpful, but I find Padmasambhava readings on her channel, things like Descending with the View from Above. There's going to be a new release soon of the 21 Vital Instructions. He's constantly pointing to this innate awareness and helping us break down the wrong view, which is basically attachment to conditioned things that arise. But the real view is when we recognize that innate awareness. I'm just trying to remember, there's a beautiful quote. There's many beautiful things, but perhaps I'll point you to that one teaching, descending with the view from above. And sometimes the repeated listening to these things can just bring us into touch with that. But in general, with your moment by moment practice or everyday practice, the open heart, open mind, sometimes we get into a state where maybe there's lots of thinking or reacting, and we think we have to look for awareness. But actually, it's right there. So one easy access point is listening. Rather than thinking or looking to find something, open the mind in an attitude of listening, even just listening to the sounds. And this quality of listening really opens the mind to be receptive, so it can release fixation on any one thing. And within that field of listening and openness, we recognize that innate awareness, ever-present awareness, that true nature. So I would recommend this as that which will carry you through that doorway of dropping the body. To trust this, trust in awareness itself, ever present, no matter what you may be experiencing physically, mentally, emotionally. So I hope that helps, Gail and Porter. The next question. I have some insomnia, and when I sit for meditation, my eyes tend to close against my will, and I find myself in dream states where I see pictures and hear voices. It's very confusing. Can you offer advice? Well, yeah, certainly if you're not sleeping well, say at night, then but it can happen anyway in meditation as we kind of enter a level of awareness where the natural filters of the brain for our waking life, just as in sleep, can subside. And so we experience almost dreamlike images appearing. Yeah, so it can feel very dreamlike within your meditation. That's not a problem in itself, and I can see that you have some awareness of that. So what's important is just to recognize when that's happening. It's not a problem, just you recognize, just strange images. Maybe you're hearing some internal voices, but notice it's dreamlike. It's like the dreaming mode of the mind. And in a way, it's just your body starting to just relax in meditation. You're closing your eyes, and so the body's getting the signals for sleep, particularly, maybe it's time to sleep or take some rest, particularly because you're not, say, sleeping well at night. So it'll go into that dream state. So your practice is to recognize, not resist, but you can find that level of, say, lucid awareness even as these odd, strange images come and go. And don't be confused by it. You don't have to make sense of it. But as much as possible to be aware. And if you want to, you can try and practice to keep your eyes open. So either open gaze and just resting a little bit downward, but aware of the space in the room or wherever you're practicing. And if your eyes start to feel heavy, you could say just let your gaze rest on one object in front of you. But inevitably, your body, if it's needing rest, it will want to take that rest. So I'd encourage you to find some ways to come back into a balance with the sleep cycle. Sometimes it means just being very regular with a pattern, and obviously finding out what it is that's at the cause of the insomnia. Sometimes it's many things that we ingest or things that we're doing too close to bedtime. So find ways to relax the body-mind before going to bed. And even listening to recordings on some comfortable earphones in bed can be a way to help you get to sleep. So I hope that helps. So whereabouts in England was the monastery? The monastery I went to was Amaravati Buddhist Monastery. It's in Hertfordshire. So that was established in late 1984, I think. I got there in 87, I think. Yeah. Still going. It's transformed significantly, but if you're in England, it's worth visiting. There's also a monastery in that tradition in at Chithurst in, I think it's West Sussex, a forest monastery there. So someone's asking, is it correct to say that dependent origination is about interconnectedness of all things, phenomena? And how about nibbana? Is it not separate from samsara? Thanks in advance. Well, dependent origination, or the teacher Samupaya, is the Buddha's analysis of the causal emergence of dukkha, the causal emergence of suffering. So the first cause is ignorance, not knowing the Four Noble Truths or how suffering emerges and not knowing how it subsides, and recognizing true peace. So that's ignorance. And it leads to identification. There's steps along the way of this dependent origination which are virtually instantaneous as a causal phenomenon. If there's ignorance, we tend to identify with and fixate on experience of the senses, as I described in this meditation. And thus we find ourselves in various modes of fixation, identification, and suffering, thinking we are these limited, conditioned experiences. But he described the mode, the reversal mode, with the cessation of ignorance. So with understanding emerging to the point where you understand how to relax out of that process, or how to not take things to be who and what I am, that dukkha ceases. So the direct experience of the cessation of dukkha is, the understanding of the third noble truth. So these noble truths are connected. The noble truth of dukkha, suffering, of how it arises, of how it ceases, and the understanding of the path to the complete cessation of dukkha or nibbana. So the Four Noble Truths describe the practice path, the we can say the practice path or the realization. The dependent origination is a bit more of an analysis of the bones of the second and third noble truth, if you like, the arising of dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. So we can say also it's the interconnectedness of things and phenomena because of the causal relationships. Nothing comes into being without a cause for its existence. So being and existence here is the conditioned reality. So understanding that process doesn't mean has to be an intellectual understanding, but a direct realization is the way of release and understanding, liberation. So I hope that helps. There's lots of resources that can help you understand that. How should we understand the statement that all sentient beings have been our parents? So this is a pointing to we can say karma, we can talk about rebirth, the fact that we've been, as beings, we've been born and dying within this round of births and deaths for a long time, time after time, because of not understanding the conditioned and the unconditioned. So this is pointing to the fact, or to the idea, if you don't relate to it as a fact, that we've traveled through the rounds of rebirth so often as individual beings that we've experienced all different aspects of relationship to each other. So you could say that at one time, everyone has been my mother, or I have been the mother or the parents of everyone else. So it is talking about this in deep interconnectedness within this broader concept of the endless cycle of birth and death. That's how I understand it. All sentient beings have been our mother. So even in this birth, we have one mother, actually across endless eons of time and rounds of birth and death. All beings have experienced different relationships. So whether or not we want to take that literally, I mean, some people intuitively relate to that and can sense that, but on another level, what it is pointing to is the vastness of the field of beings and being. You know, this universe is pulsating with beings. We might just see human beings, but there's all sorts of animal beings, but then beyond that there's all sorts of insect beings, and beyond that there's all sorts of microbial beings, and who knows what kind of celestial beings. You know, if we look at the surface of our skin under a microscope, it's kind of crawling with colonies of microscopic beings. Everything is alive, everything is being, buzzing and being, depending which level you want to view it at. And so I think this statement is also pointing to the vastness of beings and that interconnected reality. As I said, you know, if you look with a microscope, the skin, the surface of the skin is crawling with beings, but also the skin itself and its cells are kind of, you know, I'm not sure of the right terms, but the mitochondria at the very, very root of these cells of ours can be seen as beings and colonies that have a certain intelligence. Anywhere you look, internally, externally, within or without, there are beings. And so at that level, you know, how can you differentiate relationship? Hosts, parents, you know. And so whether we think it's pointing to a particular truth about real lived relationships over cycles of time, or just to this vastness of interconnected web of beingness, it opens the mind. And one thing this statement is particularly also pointing to or wanting to release is that innate compassion. If all beings have been our parents and we have been parents of all beings, then parents innately have unconditional love for their children, for their offspring. They're programmed on the conditioned level to care for and even sacrifice oneself to support the life of the offspring. But on the unconditioned level as well, we can recognize this just the life of all is innately, there is innate compassion. So this perception can just help dispel fixed ideas of separation, of enemy, of, friend and foe, of enemy and ally, of good and bad. Dispel this kind of mind which divides. If we could all see this way, if we could all see things in this way, there just could not be the kind of violence that nevertheless we do see in this world. Okay. Mike, happy birthday. It's my birthday today and I find it difficult this time of year. I feel close to my storied past and find it messy to detach. Well, you don't have to detach in a forceful way. Maybe you're trying to force to detach and that's what feels messy. Maybe instead of the idea of detachment, why not just try the idea of embracing? Embracing everything, the past, the future, the birth, the death, all relationships, whether we perceive them as good or bad or having gone wrong. Embrace the messiness of relationships. Embrace the regrets. Embrace the unfulfilled desires. Embrace all of it. Now, embracing this sense is not fixating and identifying with just one aspect. This is me, the rest is not, because that's very changeable. Days when we feel bad, we identify with all the less good memories emerge and we can get stuck. Oh, this is me. This is the bad me. I wish I wasn't like this. I wish that didn't happen. And other days when we feel better, those things don't come up and we might remember some of the good things. Oh, this is me. This is the good me. I love this. I wish there was more of me and more of this. But just see those as different modes. Embracing the lot means it just is as it is. And in its messiness and incompleteness, feeling of incompleteness, and it's okay. Everyone's life is full of pain and pleasure, gain and loss, praise and rebuke. You know, that which within us is just trying to push away the bad memories or get rid of the bad memories or get rid of the bad sense of self. That very action is what perpetuates the sense of dukkha or pain with it all. So just try embracing, opening the heart and embrace the lot. Not as an identity, but just as the fabric of life, the tapestry of life. It's all good in one sense. And you'll find yourself naturally okay with things as they are. And this is the real detachment. Okayness with things as they are. It's not forced. It's just a bit more resolved. And what comes to mind is maybe you've listened, but there's a series of meditations on our website called Working with Challenging Emotions, addressing different stuff. So maybe one or other of those meditations might help you come to terms with this experience. So I hope that helps, Mike. Okay, so a few more questions. I'll try to get through these questions just up here before we finish. How useful is the ayahuasca in developing understanding and compassion? Does Buddhism regard it as an intoxicant and thus is a forbidden substance? Can it be used to purify the mind? I have no personal experience of ayahuasca. And because I have personally as a nun, I hold to the precept of avoiding intoxicants and alcohol and drugs. So I think in my situation I wouldn't be inclined to try ayahuasca. So I can't really comment on it. I know some people talk about it as being helpful, but there are others who also have adverse experiences and reactions. So I don't think it's something lightly to play with or to engage with. So I don't recommend it because of the potential downside. But this is for the individual to take responsibility for. It's not something I can dictate or Buddhism dictates. I know some people very much see it as a healing substance. But if you're interested in looking into it, just do your research very carefully. There are forums where people discuss their adverse experiences. And I'm sure there's many forums where people discuss what they feel are their pros, the pros. But whatever it is, like whatever other drugs and ayahuasca does, we have to understand it is an experience. And experiences are limited. They come and go. Even if it's a profound experience, the experience is not awakening. I think the Buddha recommended a path of conscious awakening through wisdom. And through the factors that I mentioned earlier, sila, samadhi, panya. So yes, as far as I understand, that's what I'd recommend. So Zara says, I'd like to get in contact with like-minded people. Any tips for making the intention really happen? Well, you set the intention and then let it go. You've got to trust the universe. You can't make it happen necessarily. Okay, just set the intention. This is what you'd like. And set the intention, let it be a pure intention. You want that for awakening. You want that for the benefit of not just yourself, but for all beings. That your own awakening and growth can benefit all beings. And then just give it to the universe. Let it go. If you keep trying to make something happen according to an idea, will often just block things. So letting go, setting the intention, trusting the purity of the intention, keeping the mind open. Hello from Slovenia, and thank you for your service. I'm attending my first dark retreat in 10 days. Do you have any recommendation how to best handle such retreat? Many blessings. I've never had a dark retreat, so I don't really know. I trust that you're undertaking this under the guidance of a teacher, because in my understanding, a dark retreat should be recommended by a teacher who feels that you're ready and guided by that teacher. So I hope that is the case for you. Because I haven't had an experience of that, I can't give you recommendations. But in a general recommendation is probably everything I've been already saying, but to trust in awareness itself, ever present. Whatever images, experiences arise, they are just that. The mind can produce all sorts of things, and in fact, dark retreats are pretty much designed to see the capacity of the mind in all its wildness. So hold to your pure intention and innate trust in awareness, and follow your teacher's advice. So best wishes for that, and may it go well. So, OS, where can I meet you? I'm so impressed. Mostly online, because we're in southeastern Australia. We do a little bit of teaching locally, but otherwise online. So please, throughout this channel, you'll find all the live, the archive of these live streams, many teachings on our website as well, all sorts of teachings. And we do these live streams every 3 weeks. We've also got other teaching resources on our website, so you can find more of us there. How can one sustain in the midst of busy samsara? How can one sustain in the midst of busy samsara? I'm strongly drawn to who am I, listening to your videos every day to deeper learning, mainly Advaita and Vedanta teachers. How can one sustain? Well, I think you're saying in the midst of a busy life. Well, it just naturally from your practice starts to carry over. Mindfulness of body, embodied awareness. Learning how to walk in an embodied mindful way can be very helpful for our daily life activities, just being with what you're doing and breathing. So learning how to breathe consciously really helps you move through your everyday life mindfully. And to wake up when you feel the body move into stress mode. It alerts you. If you're sensitive to body, the body alerts you to the stress mode. You feel the tightening in the gut or the throat, or the breathing becoming shallow or tight. And that allows you intuitively and instinctively to open and relax there in as much as you can in your daily life. Yeah, so keep practicing, keep listening, but particularly embodied awareness of breath and body will help in your daily life. So Kim says, I'm terribly addicted to looking at my ex-boyfriend's social media. He seems to be doing the same. I know we have to stop, but we can't. Neither of us are involved, but neither of us can commit either. Okay, you just have to make a determination. You can set your determination at night and in the morning. I won't look, I won't look. Keep your phone away from hand's reach. Turn it off for periods of the day. You have to make just that determination. I'm not going to do this. And also look at the suffering, if you are engaged in it, that emerges. When we understand the suffering that emerges instinctively, it's like, oh, it's not worth doing. Put it down. Okay. I'm not going to be able to get to all these questions. Okay. I'll just scroll through. Yeah, there's a few comments. So someone says, when they meditate, they feel pressure, tension around the face and head. Aware of my breath, but can't feel it. So for you, put your hand on your lower abdomen for a while in meditation and feel the subtle movement of the lower abdomen or even the upper abdomen as your breath moves in and out of the body. So really feel it there where your hand moves with the rise and fall of the abdomen. And this can really help. Just keep coming back to that, or feel the weight of your posture as you're sitting. And that will help drop the energy out of your head. The tension in the head and the face is the mental movement. And you're trying to do something from up here, from a conceptual way. So just drop it down, put your hand on the tummy, and that will help you. You can also do some standing or slow walking meditation, and that will also help you be embodied, helps to drop the energy down from the head. So I'll just quickly answer a few of these. Yes, so love and open-heartedness for spiritual inquiry. Being in the stillness and presence, it's about recognizing the stillness. That what I said earlier about listening is a portal, entryway into the stillness and the silence. Listening to the silence behind the sounds can really help open the mind. And also you can put your hand on your heart for a time in practice. You can also feel the breath moving through the chest area. Might help to bring more awareness to this center and open the mind. So I'm afraid I won't be able to get to all the remaining questions today. We have to go to a funeral service nearby because one of our related local Sangha members passed away. So I otherwise would persist and get through all these questions that have come in, but I do apologize. Please bring your questions to the next live stream, or you can pop them into the, if it's relatively easy to answer, you can pop them into the comments section once this video has ended, and then I can respond to you there. Maybe that's the best way to do it. But for now, I'll have to leave it there. So I hope this session was helpful for people. And I wish all of you the very best. Keep trusting in the heart, trust in awareness itself. Trust in the divine awakened awareness of the universe, if you can relate to that notion. And trust in the fact that however things are, painful, dire, terrible, or good, trust that there is an underlying element that can be tuned into that is okay with it all. So I wish you peace and love. Take good care and see you again soon. Jaya Sara will do the next live stream in 3 weeks' time. And we'll update that on the website within the next week. Thanks, everyone. Take care now. Bye.